Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to, again, OCP Regional Summit in Lisbon. We're really happy to be here. I'm Andy Gill from Rittal. I have responsibility for our hyperscale accounts on the commercial engineering side, and I have my colleague with me, Steve Moore, who's one of our account managers, but also the co-chair and co-lead of Rack and Power within the OCP community. So for the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to talk about the AI adoption and the challenges to develop and scale real-world hardware. We've been developing hardware for decades now. We're pretty experienced at it. We're going to give you some of our experiences of it and what our plans going forward in terms of AI are, in terms of developing, particularly on the cooling side. First of all, just a one-slider on who we are with Rittal. We're a company that's been founded in the early 60s, so a pretty old company by now, 10,000 employees, and we're truly international. We have subsidiaries throughout the world, including 12 production facilities, located in all continents of the world. Just to give some round numbers, currently we're producing over 200,000 cooling units every year and around 15,000 enclosures a day, not a year, a day. Not working. Okay, so over to Steve.
So here we just wanted to give you a brief overview of what we're seeing, the reasons for the growth in AI right now. A couple of examples are driverless vehicles, as we're all aware of. That has the potential to revolutionize the truck industry. We also have pop-generated music from AI, which could potentially revolutionize the music industry, and also just basic human tasks in any working day life that could eventually be revolutionized by AI. So these are a few examples of why we're seeing the growth we're seeing. Obviously, everybody's very aware of the growth that we're seeing in AI. This is just one example of that growth in this graph, as you can see here, and it's tremendous. So along with this growth, there's obviously the challenge of scalability and the technology required to do so. Just like this summit is trying to produce, we're trying to get collaboration so that we can develop the cooling, the infrastructure and hardware required to be able to support that growth. Some challenges with that. So one challenge would be the technical side. So that's the technical ability of engineering groups to come together and be able to develop the infrastructure and technology of equipment to be able to support this growth. Another is the people. So as many of you will be aware, we have a labor market that's very squeezed right now, and that's across the board. That is not just the technical white-collar work of people that are developing these products, but also the labor required to build that. So this is industry-wide, and it's a broad challenge for many. We also have the supply chain. So the supply chain that everybody needs to develop in terms of components and the technology within that supply chain to be able to support the growth and scalability of supply for the end products that we're now using today to contribute to the AI growth. This is another example of the growth that we're seeing, driven by the silicon developments of key companies such as NVIDIA. NVIDIA right now, as many of you are aware, of the leader of that with their most recent launch of the Blackwell chip. There's many other companies such as AMD and Intel that are also driving this growth, and they obviously help facilitate the abilities of AI and the growth we're seeing today. Another part of this is the amount of power required to run the AI infrastructure that's required, and then obviously the heat that is therefore produced with these chips that needs to be removed, and hence the cooling, the explosion of cooling technology we see at shows like today. Next, we wanted to show you how Rittal is supporting this explosion. So in terms of infrastructure and hardware and equipment that we can provide, and we do provide today, that is supporting this growth. So Rittal has decades of experience of manufacturing hyperscale volume racks for many customers worldwide. Here we wanted to show you an example of the OCP products that we have developed and are developing currently to support both general infrastructure but also the AI boom. In 2015, we started with the development of ORV2, which many of you will be familiar with. And then later on in 2019, we began the lead development of ORV3, which many of you will be familiar from the racks you will see throughout the show today. The racks that we are now developing are directly linked to the AI boom that everybody is experiencing. One example is the networking rack an ORv3 variant, which helps support the networking required to communicate for the AI. Another is the high-power ORv3 rack. This is a rack that can support 140 kilowatts of power to help directly support the AI infrastructure that's required today. And then finally, we have a product available, ORv3 NVIDIA rack, which is specifically designed to support their architecture, so directly for their products. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. So to back what Steve set up in terms of scalability, showing where we are, in the top there you see in red, we have our manufacturing facilities based throughout the world, US, in Ohio, UK, Plymouth, where myself and Steve are based, in Shanghai and in China. And we've been shipping hyperscale volumes out of those facilities for 30 plus years, so a huge amount of experience in doing it. And we're still proud of the fact that through COVID, when all the supply chains were in chaos everywhere, we never let our customers down once during that whole period. And then we have our cooling facilities, and I'll go a little bit more detail about that in the coming slides. So we have a fairly large facility in Italy and a large facility in India, and also Shanghai supports a lot of the cooling. So the purpose of this is to show that as we're scaling, most of the suppliers, most of the manufacturers around the world are also scaling. We already have factories in place. This is an example of one in Italy, 16,000 square meter facility that produces in the region of 200,000 cooling units every year, with over 400 people in place, really state of the art. And these guys have been doing cooling solutions since the 1970s. And to give a little bit around our other facilities, we have a China facility which produces over 35,000 cooling units, and I'll describe what those cooling units are in a second. And Italy's coming up in scaling this year at over 15,000 cooling units. So what type of cooling units do we produce? Well, at the moment, around 80% is compressor-based, so everything from a couple of kilowatts upwards. 160,000 of these per year we're producing at the moment, compressor-based DX solutions. And then the other 20% is the water-based, so the traditional water-based chilled water cooling solutions in different form factors, rear door hex, inline, in-row, etc. So our approach going forward in terms of AI and supporting it, and you'll see some of our products here at the moment, is around our standardized architecture. We recognize, as most end users do, that if you can scale a standardized architecture, you minimize risk, you improve costs, you improve price through scalability, but equally important, you improve your supply chain and risk mitigations around the world. And that's even more critical than ever to have standardized solutions where we can. And our approach is a system architecture approach, a complete solution, based around the rack, the ORv3 product, as you can see in most of these shows, or 19-inch for some of the more legacy equipment out there, through to full cooling solutions, CDUs, RPUs, manifolds, rear door hexes, the monitoring, the controlling, etc., and the power, busbar, all run off 48-volt DC busbar of different power, everything from 13 kilowatts, as Steve's already mentioned, to the 100-plus kilowatt, all off the same interface point at 48-volt DC. So to dive on that a little bit deeper, and more specifically, we're developing liquid-to-air and liquid-to-liquid solutions. So the liquid-to-air, different form factors again, rear door hex, 38 kilowatts, side coolers, 55 kilowatt. But then the liquid-to-liquid, which is obviously the demand going forward and pretty urgently, is around CDU in-rack. And again, if you go to our booth, either downstairs, as you're coming through the lobby, that one is a CDU in-row. And you'll see our CDU in-rack at the booth upstairs at A2. 30, 60 kilowatt, 100 kilowatt in a 4OU space as an in-rack solution, right the way through to a full in-row solution of 1 megawatt. So that particular solution, that's the one you'll see downstairs with all the nice stainless piping on the back. Some of the features around this is around modular design. Each of the units you see downstairs has a capability of around 250 kilowatts of cooling, giving an N+1 redundancy on this. It's all hot swappable. You can have downtime, you can pull a unit out while continuing the uptime on all of your equipment without having to shut anything down whatsoever. Everything's hot swappable within the rack, and it's based around the form factor of OCP. So it's in an ORv3 rack, all the controllers, the modules, the power, the actual cooling units, the CCUs, which are the pumping units inside, are all based around 48-volt DC and the same form factor as OCP. So in less than 1 meter square of space there, you've got over 1 megawatt of cooling in row. And it also means if you've also deployed OCP racks recently, and whether it's in the hyperscalers or the colos, there's no need to reconfigure too much. It can pull out and slide straight back into that space. And some of the technical data. What I will do is I'll show a video which is running on some of our screens, so watch this for 2 minutes. I don't think the sound is going to play because I don't have a jack connector on this one, but we'll show the video, we'll show some of the things, and we'll take questions. And hopefully this one runs perfectly fine. Try again. That one. Yeah, there we go. There would be a nice soundtrack behind this if I could run it. So you can see the modules sliding in, each of those 250 kilowatt of cooling with up to 1 megawatt for 4 of them with N+1 redundancy, with all the battery backups, the power shells, which are agnostic. It can be supplied by any type of vendor, and hot swappable controller, all of it completely hot swappable. It's the main heat exchangers going at the bottom, and all the flexible connections for the CCUs. And you can see the primary and secondary supplies going in, the primary on the right out to the chilled water, secondary on the left. A lot of the leakless and dripless quick connector couplings, all compliant with a lot of the OCP standards. Top and bottom connections, so you can deploy this either top or bottom depending on the architecture within the data center. And obviously the shut-off valves. And a lot of redundancy around it already, as we've already said. And if you look at the main unit downstairs, it has redundancy at a pump level, a CCU level. If you look at the one in the in-rack solution out in the hall, that's got a redundancy within its own 4OU unit, where it's got 3 pumps in there with redundancy of N+2. And some of the key features of it. Obviously, I've mentioned a lot of these in terms of modular design, 1 kilowatt, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so we're pleased to show that one downstairs. A lot of our technical team are here over the next day or two. Please meet up with them, with ourselves, myself, Steve, and some of the team around us at the moment if you've got any questions on this. If you want a more detailed deep dive and you're not here physically at the show and you're listening in live, then please contact one of us within Rittal, and we'll do a live demo via whatever's needed, Teams, WhatsApp, Facebook, etc. So thank you very much. Are there any questions for the Rittal team? No, all clear. Excellent. Okay, thank you very much.